Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in once again. I appreciate you being here. A little bit of cloud cover coming over. It's late in the afternoon, but I wanted to get this video out to you. And today I want to talk about why 0.1, 10% of a Bitcoin is going to be a really, really big deal in the very near future. And this is really important because I believe that if you're in Bitcoin and you're looking to really level things up, or maybe you're not yet in Bitcoin and you're wanting to get started in Bitcoin and really get off on the right foot, I just think that thinking in terms of small increments, targets, and having those, stacking targets front of mind when you're trying to set little mini targets and goals for yourself, it's very, very helpful in my mind to have round numbers to work towards. And I've always liked to stack in that way. Maybe you have too. You can let me know in the comments below. But I just think that 0.1, if you're in your middle stages of life and you're looking to retire, say in 10, 15, 20 years from now, I really think that as a baseline, you should be really aiming for that 0.1, 10% of a Bitcoin as quickly as you possibly can. So I want to share some facts and figures with you here today, which will hopefully will give you some real clarity around this and why this is important. But before I do that, I just want you to really understand that, as the great Max Kaiser said many years ago, and this is a quote that just keeps coming up for me. I hear it quite often when Max is on different podcasts and interviews. We have to understand that Bitcoin has no top because fiat currency has no bottom. Bitcoin has no top because fiat currencies have no bottom. Bitcoin is mathematically engineered to go up and to the right forever, whereas fiat currencies are mathematically engineered to fall to the floor forever. And the reason for that is because we have a finite monetary instrument, being Bitcoin, versus an infinite monetary instrument, being the dollar, a fiat currency, which will continue to be inflated, which will continue to dilute your purchasing power and your savings, which we have no say or visibility over how much currency is in supply. And you have to ask yourself, how is it that governments are able to fund their spending programs? Because even though they're trying to tax people into oblivion now, even still they can't collect enough in taxation to fund all of their promises and their spending programs. And just as well that they have access to the money printer, where there's no checks and balances. The currency is backed by nothing. It once was backed by gold, but since 1971 that hasn't been the case. And so all that we have is our faith and trust in the establishment, in the system, in the issuers of currency, that they're doing all the right things economically. But in reality, every time they print money, they're actually stealing the power of our savings. They're stealing the power of our retirement accounts. Young people who are diligently going to work and putting so much of their income into the bank every week, thinking they're doing the right thing, they don't realise that it's actually a hopeless game now because of inflation, which is being caused by rampant currency debasement and money printing. So all of that is the backdrop that we need to have, the mindset that we need to have moving forward. And this is really what gives us, the basis to go on a hunt for learning, to develop our conviction around Bitcoin and to realize that Bitcoin is the life raft. It is the escape hatch. It is the opt-out strategy from the sinking financial Titanic, which is only going to get worse and worse and worse. We know that the US government is some 36, 37 trillion in debt. The Australian government, I think, is approaching $1 trillion in debt. And so these are situations now that we have to be mindful of, because they're just going to keep debasing the currency in order to keep the whole system afloat. Do you realize that every time they issue a mortgage, a new mortgage, they're not borrowing that currency off depositors and repurposing it to offer to somebody, who's borrowing that money? That may have been the case once upon a time, but these days all they do, if there's $1 million mortgage being issued, Essentially, it's just new money units that is created into existence, which essentially drives inflation and diluting the purchasing power of savers. This is why real estate prices are out of control, because all of that debt, that issued debt or credit that's issued, is finding its way into the housing market. And so all of this is a problem now. And for the first time, we have an option to actually say enough is enough and to move into this new system which Satoshi created on the back of the global financial crisis and released to the world as a gift, as a decentralized opt-out strategy, as a monetary protocol for anybody to access at any level at any time. And that's what Bitcoin is. And it's peer-to-peer value transfer. We can transfer value. You and I can do that freely without any counterparty, without any middleman, without any interference. And it's completely portable, meaning that we can take our long-term savings, our wealth with us at the drop of a hat at any time, which is also a really, really powerful thing in this uncertain economic world that we live in. But let's get into 0.1. 0.1 today is 10,000 US dollars. And I'm just going to talk US dollars for the sake of today's video. If you're in Australia, which I know many of you are, just bear with me. Just pretend we're talking Aussie dollars. But since Bitcoin is generally priced in USD, we're just going to run with that for today. So 0.1, Bitcoin is hovering around 100,000 US dollars. 0.1 is 10,000 US dollars. The annual compound growth rate of Bitcoin for the past 10 years has been 59%. But for the sake of this exercise, I've just put 50% into the CAGR calculator. If you want to know where the CAGR calculator is and verify this for yourself, plot some numbers for yourself, you'll see in my show notes, I have a link to the reverse CAGR calculator, a very simple tool. I often work with people on this during our one-on-one Zoom calls, and it's a really great tool to plot some figures for yourself so that you can set some targets for yourself. Simple tool, just 3 fields to enter data into. 0.1, 10,000 at 50% compound annual growth rate. In 15 years from now, it will be worth 4.3 million US dollars. Again, 10,000 at 50% CAGR in 15 years will be 4.3 million US dollars. Let's compare that to your superannuation fund or to the stock market, which we know is running at 8% over the past 10 years. If you put $10,000 into the stock market at 8% CAGR, compound annual growth rate, in 15 years, it'll be worth just 31,000 US dollars, just $31,000. Which would you prefer? Would you prefer 4.3 million or would you prefer 31,000? That's the first thing to keep in mind. Now let's look if you were able to get your hands on one whole Bitcoin, if you had the means to rotate out of underperforming assets, super funds, real estate, whatever it might be, and you were able to get to one whole Bitcoin as quickly as you possibly could. At $100,000, 50% CAGR in 10 years would be worth $5.7 million. 100,000, which is essentially one Bitcoin, at 50% CAGR in 10 years would be worth $5.7 million. Now notice that I'm working on long time horizons here. I don't care about what the price is going to be tomorrow, next year, or the year after that. I'm zooming out. I understand that Bitcoin's price or value is mathematically engineered to go up forever because it is fixed and finite, decentralized, absolutely scarce. And when we're pricing it in an infinite currency, it will always go up forever over the long term. Does that mean that there'll be pullbacks? Of course there will. Does that mean there'll be volatility? Of course there will. But this is the kind of thing we're talking about: retirement, life savings, saving for a home, setting ourselves up for life. All of these things, we've got to zoom out. We've got to think in terms of a long time horizon. So $100,000 at 8% as a comparison in the stock market in 10 years would be $215,000. So in Bitcoin, $100,000 at 50%, 10 years, 5.7 million, $100,000 in the stock market at 8% compound annual growth in 10 years would be worth 215,000. So again, 215,000 in the stock market or 5.7 in Bitcoin. Which would you prefer? And this is where we are now, and this is why I keep pounding the table and saying, get your hands on the reverse Kager calculator, put some numbers in there, get some clarity, get some understanding, get some conviction, set some goals, do the work on Bitcoin, read the books, get your hands on the Bitcoin Standard, get your hands on the big print by Lawrence Lepard. There's a whole host of interviews and podcasts, people like Jeff Booth, Lawrence Lepard, you can see them on these podcasts, Tony Yazbek. You've got to tune in and do the work, do the hours on Bitcoin. I would say that if you haven't already done 10 to 20 hours on Bitcoin study, which essentially means reading at least 2 books, listening to maybe 10 to 15 long form interviews and podcasts, then you haven't done enough work on Bitcoin. Now that would be an absolute baseline. Now myself, I've probably done 5,000 hours study on Bitcoin, but that's just me. I'm studying it every single day. As a baseline, if you don't have the time to do that, make sure that you at least shoot for 20 hours of learning in Bitcoin. Because when you have the conviction, when you have the understanding of what this asset is, it makes it very easy to ignore the noise. It makes it very easy to ignore short-term corrections in the price. Any pullback in the Bitcoin price or exchange rate in dollar terms, you realize is simply an opportunity to take advantage of Satoshis, of Bitcoin, while it's on sale. So a pullback in price means Bitcoin is on sale. And that's a mindset that you develop when you understand the asset and the value of it that you're actually holding. So 0.1 will be worth millions. Is it going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now? We don't know what the future holds. All we can go by is historical growth rates, but we have to understand where we are on the adoption curve. We have to understand that Bitcoin is repricing every other asset. It's going to reprice the world. If you listen to people like Jeff Booth, he openly says, when people ask him, what is the true inherent value in terms of today's purchasing power of one whole Bitcoin? And he will openly tell you that right now, one whole Bitcoin, its true inherent value in today's dollars is actually $43 million. And what he means by that is when you take into account the total addressable market of assets globally, which is around about $900 trillion, when you take into account real estate, stocks, bonds, shares, currencies, gold, silver, fine art, collectibles, etc., there's about 900 trillion. And when you divide that by 21 million Bitcoin, which is the most that will ever exist, remembering it's the world's first truly decentralized global free market that is repricing everything, over the course of time, that 900 trillion divided by 21 million gives you $43 million in today's value. But he actually says that the true value of Bitcoin is far, far greater than that, because as time goes on, Bitcoin is just going to continue to reprice everything, because it is the world's first free market, because there's no end to how much financial energy this protocol is going to absorb. And we're seeing it now. We're still very early. You have to do the work. You have to really contemplate this for yourself to get to this point where the penny starts to drop and you realize that this is the future, this is the place to be. And when you're thinking about retirement, setting yourself up for the future, I can't think of a better place for you to be spending your time and your energy than Bitcoin. So I'm going to leave it there today. I just want to end with 3 quick prompts for you, or questions for you to contemplate, rhetorical questions for you to internalize yourself as an end to this video. Number 1 is, have you done that a minimum of 20 hours of study of Bitcoin? If you haven't, make sure you get on the path today. Start learning, get a new book, start listening, start reading, and really reinforce what this asset is in your mind so you understand it. Number 2 is, have you taken action? If you're sitting on the fence, if you're not accumulating Satoshis, if you're not ending the month with more sats than you started the month with, then maybe this is the time for you to start really putting your head down and stacking a little harder. And the third question is, have you got your Bitcoin in self-custody? I meet people all the time who still haven't taken that step. They're nervous about taking that step. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to take your Bitcoin into self-custody. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Make sure you remember that and never forget it. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. I'm happy to talk you through it. I guide people every single week on where to go, how to do this properly so that you don't make any mistakes. You'll see a link in the show notes if you'd like to book a call with me, a one-on-one call. We go for about an hour. You'll get tremendous value from a session with me no matter where you're at on your journey. So I'd love to meet you on a call if that's of interest to you. Other than that, let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you got from today's video, how you feel about it, any feedback, and please like, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is Zane signing out. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye for now.